What's good, friends? List episode 48 of the Game Pass Gamecast coming at you. As the gaming industry collectively prepares to head into next gen, more and more publishers are starting to lay out their plans, including the likes of Take-Two Interactive. The parent company to the likes of Rockstar Games recently stated they are planning for 93 games to be produced under their umbrella over the next 5 years. Wait, seriously? 93 games? I'm reading that right. 93? Holy shit. No, okay, whatever they say. But will all of those see the light of day? And is the inevitable GTA 6 one of those? Plus, Microsoft is promising thousands of games will be available at launch on the Xbox Series X through their backwards compatibility program after Sony's mixed messaging regarding the PS5's capabilities. But are they potentially looking a little too far into the past currently? All of this and much more on the newest episode of the Game Pass Gamecast.
Now the fun begins.
Budget.
Stop! You violated the law.
Welcome back to another episode of the Game Pass Gamecast, your weekly go-to podcast for all things Xbox, Xbox Game Pass, and PC gaming, including news, rumors, and conversations around them damn good video games. You can catch new episodes of the show when they drop each and every Friday morning on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, and all other major podcast services. So be sure to subscribe to us wherever you get a podcast at. And leave us some reviews, too. That does help. That really actually is just as equally important as actually listening to the podcast. So please do that. That it would mean a lot. And you can also follow us on Twitter at GPGC Podcast. Stay up to date with everything regarding the show, video games alike, and our dope giveaways. We just recently did a dope giveaway, giving away 3 months of Xbox Game Pass on PC. And actually, there's some news coming up once we get through our little rigmarole that kind of leads into Xbox Game Pass on PC. So if you were listening last week, you could have won. So make sure you follow us on Twitter. You can get all that jazz, find out what we're giving away and whatnot. Joining me as always, well, actually, I guess I should say, I'm your host as always, Travis White, aka Travis on most internet platforms. It's no matter how long we do this show for, I'll always never be able to fully get through an intro. I think, like, how I have it planned out in my mind, like, I ramble through the welcome or whatever that I know, and, introduce me, then introduce you, and then we roll into what we're playing, yada, yada. Never goes as fully planned. So, as always, we're the dumpster truck on fire, and we're cool with that. So, as always, I'm your host, Travis White, aka Travis, on most internet platforms. Joining me as always, my co-host, my partner in crime, Mike P-Pack. Mike, what's good? What's going on? And what have you been playing in our... I'd like to say quarantine is getting a little bit better. It's getting a little more laxed. We're slowly getting towards, not normalcy, but like closer to the green phase where some areas of normalcy can be kind of taken back. You're able to go golfing still. We're able to go outside and go into a lot of... retail stores and restaurants are starting to be able to do at least outside dining, and potentially once they get into the green, they're going to be able to do some indoor dining. So, what have you been playing during this quarantine light, I guess I should say?
The only thing I've really been playing that's any different from what I normally play is I have been spending, a good bit of time playing Age of Empires when I have had free time. So I've been playing Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition because they are releasing kind of new content every month and releasing patches and updates every month, so it's been nice. I've been playing some Halo MCC since they updated the PC version, and it's better and works a lot better. I have been playing a lot of that, and they just fixed Halo 3, so I will be getting back to playing a little bit more Halo 3 here since they did just fix that there on Xbox. So
nice,
just kind of mixing it up. Just been golfing a lot too. So
yeah, well, no, it's always important to get out. Like literally every day that I start, because I'm like many people, I'm still working from home, even though the county that I work in probably isn't necessarily going to be back to normal super soon, like next week or anything, but relatively soon. I'd say in the next month I could potentially be going back into the office. But I'm very cool with just chilling out, and now like I'm so used to just working from home now that it's like, and normally with my job I'm like during the school year at least, I'm working like 60 hours a week. So like I'm kind of relishing this, like, this is our slow period to begin with anyways, so it's like I have work to do, but I'm also getting that downtime to kind of, for once, rejuvenate myself a little bit, charge the batteries back up. But it's really important, like, that I've found out getting outside. I start my day every day. I walk the dog. I either take him to, a park 10, 15 minutes away, or even just the neighborhood, but like get a nice like hour walk in just to get out and like make sure I get the like vitamin D, being outside. So, that's really important. I'm so glad that, the governor was smart enough and the people who are running our country were intelligent enough to see, yeah, you know what? Golf courses probably should be open. There's no reason not to. Golf is the most socially distant game that you can do, or activity even outside, that it's like, why wouldn't you?
Right.
So it just was illogical to me from the beginning, for the most part, that was shut down. Other things, obviously, yes, but golfing's very easy. But on my end, in terms of games I'm playing, really was trying to milk Valorant now that the beta's ending today. We're recording on Thursday. It ends actually soon, in like an hour. I was going to try to squeeze one more game in beforehand, but something came up. I was doing some extra stuff for the show and didn't get enough time to jump in there and play one more game. But I had a blast with it. I know you have your reservations. I do too at times with certain things, but overall, I thought for a closed beta for a game that is, I don't want to say wholly new, but it's a nice shot in the arm to the esports community and competitive FPS games that, I hope this puts pressure on Valve with CS. And especially now that the Source 2 engine's coming out, could we see a new iteration of CS? I as somebody like you who loves, Counter-Strike in general, I hope this pushes Counter-Strike. And as somebody who likes Overwatch as well, I hope this pushes Overwatch. I hope this makes Overwatch 2 evolve the, Overwatch formula. So outside of that too, finished up Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I can't remember if I did that last week on the show. I don't think so. No, I finished up this past weekend. Excellent game. There's a few reservations I have with it compared to a lot of other games. I feel like there's a little too much filler at times, but it's an open world game. You're going to find those, but I truly, the one thing I meant to say last week during our conversation about third-party publishers and things like that, one of the things I love about Odyssey and a lot of open world games that we're seeing this generation is the color palette. Being able to express, especially HDR helps that with a lot of games that you're able to play, but last generation, when I think of open world games, you look at the Arkham series, you look at Skyrim, really, I thought we peaked in terms of color with, like, Oblivion, because that game's so lush and beautiful, that you see towards the later in the generation, it was very washed out. Like, so many open worlds were very gray, brown, tan, like, just dreary, where we're seeing so much more pop and color, like, within The Witcher 3, within Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and Origins, too. Watch Dogs, too. I've been playing a little bit of that on PC, that, you're getting to see these worlds that are so lush and beautiful now that it's such a refreshing change compared to, as someone who did like Skyrim, very dreary and, dank, and it just is a very, like, expressive, I guess, approach. But outside of that, that's really been all I've been playing too much. I've been wanting to kind of get back into Siege. I have a couple friends who play that, who have been talking about playing that. They kind of put that little itch back there, so I may jump into that this weekend a little bit. But yeah, outside of that, that's pretty much it, man. Before we get into the show, a little bit of housekeeping this week that I wanted to touch on. Another big Xbox, I don't want to say exclusive because it is coming out, but from a title from an Xbox game studio that was released, Minecraft Dungeons, which is basically the Diablo-esque, twist on Minecraft, which I have yet to play. I did want to jump in and just try it out, even though Minecraft necessarily isn't my jam. It was interesting to jump in and I am interested in jumping in and trying that out at some point. It is on Game Pass, so I did want to remind you. Current Metacritic on it right now is 70, so it's getting decent reviews. It's, swimming in sevens, as Michael Huber over on Easy Allies likes to say. It seems like it's going to be a game that's going to get iterative updates, and it's a game that it seems like Mojang isn't going to let just die. So, hopefully we see that game kind of evolve, and it is nice to see, as like I said, somebody who doesn't love Minecraft or isn't necessarily attached to that franchise. It's nice to see them put out a different take on the franchise without, going the Telltale route or anything like that. It's more of a actual iterative game. And also, too, one thing I did want to mention as well, No Man's Sky originally launched on PS4, came to PC, and now on Xbox. It is coming to Xbox Game Pass next month on both console and PC. No exact date, but it is coming out in June. So, a lot of really solid things that I've heard about that game. I bought it on PS4. I think I got it for like $10 or $20 the year it came out on Black Friday, like when it was a dumpster fire. And I remember I played it for like 15 minutes and the game crashed, and I was like, well, not playing this anymore. But I've heard really incredible things about it over the past, year and a half or so. So that's one that I'm probably going to jump into. Mike, do you have any interest in either two of these games, kind of jumping in and trying them out?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know. I'm in this weird limbo where I don't know what it is about me, but I'm like always wanting to compete in something. With Halo 3 coming to PC very soon, I see myself playing a lot of Halo 3 and getting back into shape there. Halo 2 Classics having some free tournaments online with small prize pools. I just see myself spending more of my time perfecting my craft with Age of Empires or Halo than I do just diving into RPG games at this current time, unless it's something that like not even saying something that like I enjoy or something that I'm interested in, because it's not that I wouldn't be interested in these games, but
something
a new
that
Elder
kind of
Scrolls
forces
game
your
or something,
hand, yeah,
right?
Like something that monumental that comes. It's like, well, I gotta try that out.
Right. Like right now we have a D&D campaign that's kind of stagnant that we need to get back into. We have Divinity 2 that we need to play through. Like there's just so many games right now that I need to play through. And then I've been playing the Golf Club 2019 and then 2020 2K, what is it, 21 or whatever's coming out, the new golf game by them. So there's just games already that are out that I'm going to be playing, that like adding another RPG onto my docket while I'm taking a few summer courses and stuff. It's just, there's just a lot for me right now. And I don't think I'm not saying like the game's bad. That's why I don't want to play it. I'm just saying like I have so much going on right now that for me to bite off like another RPG experience is going to be not a time waste, but I just want to spend my time doing something different. And that's no diss on those games or anything. It's just that's where I'm at with my life right now,
Oh no, trust me, I completely understand. I'm kind of in the same boat where it's like, in a sense, I guess, where I don't want to, like, there's so many other things. Like, I've been getting more back into competitive games. Like, Valorant has kind of sparked that again in me, that, I was kind of feeling a little burnt out by CS, playing it a lot, later last year, that playing Valorant, and being burnt out from Siege and CSGO, that it kind of sparked like, hey, I want to get back into playing some FPSs, playing some tactical games, playing some competitive games that, that has pulled me away, that I kind of felt bad, not bad, but when I was playing Odyssey, kind of sharing time between those two, and God, there's only, so many hours in the day, and both of us are in committed relationships, things like that. Like, there's a lot of things going on in life that work on top of that too. It's, there's only so many hours in the day, and you got to find time to please everything in your life. But, it's kind of one of those things too now that I'm thinking about, where it's like I'm playing Dishonored a little bit on PC, and it's a relatively short game. I think it's maybe like 10, 11 hours or something. I think How Long to Beat has it somewhere right around there. So not a very long game at all, but, a game that I'm really enjoying the, 2 hours or whatever I'm into it. But knowing that it's like, well, okay, I can get in and get out of that because I want to invest my time, June 2nd rolls around, I want to get back into playing Valorant. And even thinking out loud, like, kind of want to keep scratching at this. Might go back to playing some CSGO or something like that this weekend. So starting something like, I was thinking of even jumping back in and doing the DLC finally for The Witcher 3. Something like that that's going to be another 40 hours a piece, that it's hard to commit to that, where you think of the things that are coming out. Last of Us Part 2, I know this is an Xbox show, but Last of Us Part 2 is coming out, and that's one of my most anticipated games of all time, coming out in 3 weeks. So, you know, am I going to have enough time to finish all of that before that and then stop it and try to pick it back up, you know, a couple weeks later and be like, where the fuck am, you know, where was I, yada yada. So I totally get it. Totally understand where the fuck I am. So,
and that's something that, like, recently, like, I'm only on, like, emergency call basically, but my CSGO team that plays in ESEAIM needed a guy the other night. So, I mean, I played a league match last night. So there's just, like, there's a lot on my slate as it is, let alone, like, putting another game on. And again, not like, this isn't disrespectful. I don't want to be disrespectful to, like, you know, the people who make the game. Like, I'm not saying that the games suck. It's just right now, I think everyone can kind of relate. Like, there's times in your life where just things are so hectic that there are things that you really want to do, and then there's things that you would like to do. And both of these games are in the something I would like to do category. Just not realistic right now for me personally.
Well, fun fact about them, they're still going to be there no matter what.
Yeah.
You know, they're we don't have a timestamp to get on. We're not reviewing them or anything like that. So, you know, at least not now, but you get what I mean. They're there. You don't have to necessarily do them right now. I'm like you. I'm interested in them. Might not get to them right away, but I at least want to dip a toe in and spend a couple of minutes at least trying it out, getting a feel, seeing if I click with it. So, but Mike, you did say something that is actually two things that are kind of segue us into the news. One talking about Take-Two, and one talking about a lot of fucking video games to play. That's going to kick off our news. Let's get into the news. First topic today, Take-Two Interactive has 93 fucking games planned for the next 5 years. 93. And the fucking isn't in the headline. That's a little editorializing on my end. But this headline comes from Andy Chalk over on PC Gamer. So, as always, link in the description. Make sure you give Andy a click. Take-Two Interactive is best known for the Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption games, but it's looking to broaden those horizons considerably. President Karl Slatoff said during today's earnings call that the publisher has 93 quote-unquote full games releases planned for the next 5 years, a lineup he describes as, quote, the strongest in the company's history. 63 of those games will be quote-unquote core gaming experiences, Slatoff said, while 17 will be mid-core or arcade and 13 are casual. 72 will be on console and PC and or streaming platforms like Stadia, while the rest will be exclusively mobile, and 67 will launch as purchase and play, while the remainder will be free to play. Coincidentally or not, almost exactly half of the games in the pipeline, 47 of 93, as close as you can come, are from existing properties, while the remainder are brand new. What exactly constitutes a quote-unquote core game isn't exactly clear. Slatoff said later in the call that there's, quote, a bit of an art of how Take-Two defines the term, but they don't necessarily represent the company's largest investments. Quote, they tend to be bigger investments because core games tend to be bigger games and more engaging, targeting more core gamers, but it doesn't necessarily mean that, he explained. Slatoff said that new properties are riskier than games from existing series, and they're also at much greater risk of being canceled during development. But Take-Two wants to increase the pace of its releases over what it's historically been. Quote, there's a larger pipeline than we've had before. I haven't had coffee today, so that's probably why I'm all over the place trying to read this shit. We've been talking about this for quite some time. Our exception is that we'd like to keep up this velocity, he said. It's really important for us to build scale, and this is one way that we're doing it. We need more at-bats. Look, sports ball and shit, you know? God, I miss live sports. I'm not gonna lie. I really miss live sports. CEO Strauss Zelnick echoed that position in a separate response, saying that company wants to smooth out some of the variability in its financial results with a handful or greater of significant releases every year. Quote, with our strong catalog and our live service offerings and with our annual releases, we can have great strength even in a light year, even though it's not our goal to have a light year, and then do even better in the year when we're able to launch a number of titles, which is our strategy, and even better than that if we are fortunate enough to have a blockbuster, Zelnick said. Quote, and we have some of those as well. The variability in our results I don't think will ever go away, not when you have some of the biggest entertainment properties on Earth that can't come out every year if they aren't to remain its biggest titles. It's definitely our goal to be smoother and to grow. So, on top of that, too, additionally, industry analyst Jeff Cohen pointed out that recently released financial reports from Take-Two shows that the company plans to double their actual annual marketing budget for the fiscal year 2023 and 2024. That, 2023 to 2024, I should say, which many believe could indicate to be the potential launch of Grand Theft Auto 6, since that seems to be their development cycle, Red Dead, GTA, type of thing, at least with Rockstar. Though, since this all came out about that, Take-Two has disputed that, saying, well, it'd be under Rockstar if we were going to do it that way, we'll see. So, clearly, 90 plus games is really an astronomical commitment to make over, the next 5 years. And you'd imagine probably many of those titles probably won't see the light of day, I would say, or there's at least a good possibility that a nice chunk of them won't. But the one thing that really sticks out to me is that there's a potential room really for new IP to make a statement for themselves, especially really how stagnant the industry can be at times, especially even this generation. We're seeing a lot of remasters, we're seeing a lot of remakes, we're seeing a lot of, older IPs kind of rebooted and, rechurned, and which isn't totally a bad thing at all. But it is something that, there needs to be I think a balance between the two of, hey, we got to stick with, we can keep elevating the properties we do have, but we also have to elevate new ideas, and we have to keep new, fresh creative things coming in and out too. So, what kind of experiences are you hoping to get out of this roadmap, Mike, from Take-Two? And although they really did deny, do you see the time frame for a potential release of GTA 6 to pretty much line up with that 2024 marketing boost?
It just depends. So, like, for Take-Two Interactive, this is something that some in-depth gamers or people that have their, hand on the pulse. And if you're listening to this show, this might be redundant information. Mm-hmm. But Take-Two Interactive, not only are they known for Rockstar, but they also own, 2K. Mm-hmm. So, both of those studios, them putting out that amount of games doesn't actually sound that crazy. Like, at first, you think 93 is a huge number. But in all reality, I mean, they have 3 publishers under their belt right now. This is per the Wikipedia page for Take-Two. They have 2K, which is in California. Mm-hmm. They have Rockstar, and then there's a new private division that hasn't been named yet in Seattle, Washington, that was acquired or founded on February of 2020. Mm-hmm. So I think that's interesting knowledge to know. A little tidbit of information that is kind of weird, and I didn't know this, but in the year 1998, a little studio called Gearhead Entertainment came out with a game. Mm-hmm. This game was some N64 game, like Bass Fisher, something stupid, something weird. But they were owned by Take-Two Interactive, and the location for Gearhead Entertainment was Latrobe, Pennsylvania.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, It was founded in 97, divested in 99, so they only made that one game, and then they were torn apart by Take-Two. But little local knowledge for us here at the Pass Gamecast. I just thought that was a cool tidbit of information to include.
I never would have thought that.
So, just looking at all their publishers that they have under their belt. I mean, 2K is a pretty big brand. Obviously, Rockstar is huge. Mm-hmm. 93 games seems like an ask. That seems like a lot, right? That's just a ton of games. But all things considered, when you read the article that's linked below, you're going to see the type of games that they're talking about. They're talking about a few different experiences. They're not talking GTA 5 games. They're talking a lot of different games, which I think is great for Rockstar and 2K. I think Rockstar, it'll let them kind of sink their teeth into something different than these huge cinematic experiences that they produce with Red Dead and GTA. I do think the investment that they're making, I think that does kind of potentially spoil the fact that GTA 6 might be planned for 2022, right? That's what you were saying. And that's the only shitty thing about this studio, Take-Two, being so publicly traded. And you're talking about a public company that their stock trades at, as of right now, today, current $110 per share. I mean, that's a pretty big, that's legit. And their total assets and equity, you're talking about a $4.2 million company and equity of 2.04 million and 5,200 employees. It's pretty legit. It's a legit superpower. But unfortunately, when you have a publicly traded company, you have to produce not only earnings reports, but you have to produce reports of what you are spending and investing money in. And unfortunately, it can have tendencies to let cats out of the bag, which I think it might have in this case. Obviously, speculation, we don't have proof. We can't say for sure this is what's happening, but it definitely seems like it. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what 2K does with the golf game that they're releasing in August, because they took the studio that was making the Golf Club, which the Golf Club 2019, if you're a golfer, it's pretty realistic. And I feel like it does a pretty good job at combining an arcadey feel of Tiger Woods, because the old Tiger Woods games were not golf games. I mean, they were, but they were super arcadey, kind of like Tiger Woods. But I feel like the Golf Club did a really good job at kind of blending those experiences. So I'm excited to see what they come out with all these games that they're releasing. But we'll see what happens from Take-Two. They're publicly traded, so you kind of have to take what is being reported at face value. And I don't know about potentially like looking deeper, but in this case, when they have to report their investments, I think it is fair that you can take a deeper dive into this and kind of open your eyes and say, maybe they are, planning a GTA 6 for that point in time.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, even looking at it now, so Take-Two said that, 63 of those 93 games are going to be quote-unquote core game experiences. So you got to imagine it's going to be, that includes, those are going to be your more traditional, like, console experiences and PC experiences. Traditional, what you think of when you think video games. Go into a GameStop, go into a Walmart, Best Buy, etc. Hand $60 over, you get a physical game in a package, you take it home, put it in, you play it. I'm guessing that's what they're saying. So looking at that, divide that by 5, we're looking at about 13 games a year. So then you start kind of going through, okay, what are the annual sports franchises? Right now, PGA, they throw that in there. NBA, you throw that in there. WWE, you throw that in there. What else do they got? That's pretty much it for sport. I always thought they had more. So then you kind of look and you think, okay, what else do they have? Mafia, XCOM, Borderlands, BioShock, Civ. They have Sid Meier's Civilization. What else? So, and really, that's only, like, right there, that's only 8 games. And if they're, saying, hey, we're going to have 93 games come out, 63 of them are going to be core game experiences, that's pretty wild. Like, to think
that's
that
beefy.
That's beefy. Like, that's still
and
that's and we're throwing in games like I'm saying, I threw in games BioShock, Borderlands, things that they're not going to have yearly releases by any means. You're going to get one of those every couple years. So they're either probably potentially picking up new studios, like they said they're going to try. Like, what I'm excited about, they're going to try new IPs. They're going to try to make newer game experiences, but, like, that's just a lot for what they put out now, and they put out a lot now.
Right. And they did say in the article, and again, this is all stuff that you guys can read, but we're just being the messengers here, relaying the information, doing some of the research for you, so you don't have to worry about wasting your time. They did say they did make sure to notate that core game experiences would not technically be what you would call AAA titles.
Mhm.
But they did say that the reason why they say this, that it wouldn't be a AAA title, is because they feel that a AAA title has more of a investment connotation. Like, oh, if they're making 93 AAA titles, how much money are they investing? And that's, again, because they're a publicly traded company and things like that matter to the stockholders. But I don't think... I mean, I don't feel like they would release games like Candy Crush and call those core games for what it's
Right.
worth.
No,
I mean, if we're being
100%.
honest, and that's where you were going, and I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
But I am on your side. I feel like core game experiences are going to be games that you're going to get a good experience of. But they did say also, they backpedaled a little bit with the AAA comment, from the AAA comment saying, they don't want to make you feel like you're going to invest. Like they feel like these core game experiences would be games that you could invest 5 minutes into at a time, or 5 hours. So that, to me, makes it seem like they are being a little secretive, but they are being, like, they're saying, like, these games are going to be legit. They're not going to be, like, bullshit games. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's weird how they're like, that's the thing with being, I've been beating this drum that being a publicly traded company, that's the only shitty thing about it, is you have to be careful what you say to the media, because it could have implications on your investors, and it could have implications on your stock. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. It's when you're dealing with publishers of that size, like Take-Two, it's so multifaceted that you're not going to get a straight answer out of it. You have to answer to shareholders. You have to answer to multiple executives. Like, it's just, there's so many cooks in the kitchen that it's going to be very hard to really narrow down. But and just to kind of comment on the GTA end, while what Take-Two's response is technically right, saying, oh, well, it would come from Rockstar, the marketing would be done from Rockstar. Well, technically, but at the end of the day, you can mess with some lines a little bit. You can fudge some stuff. If Rockstar Games is, releasing financial data, which they don't, Take-Two releases their financial data, as far as I remember, at least. Take-Two speaks on their behalf, saying they made X amount of money. If, say, Rockstar put that number out, then clearly, GTA's, then that would leak everything to the public. And a lot of these companies do. They build up hype around the rumor mill. They build up hype around, the secretiveness of this. And Rockstar's always been one of those developers that, when working with a publisher like that, they have so much more. I think this is that one situation that the developer speaks louder than the publisher, because really Grand Theft Auto is the biggest entertainment property in the world, or most profitable, I think it was, that they can then say, like, they're able to just go out on a random Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever, and just drop, the teaser trailer to the next Grand Theft Auto without any pomp and circumstance. And they're able to pull that off and get insane metrics because of what they have. So, I wouldn't be shocked if that's what, 2023, 2024, probably 2024, I would definitely say. I wouldn't think 2023, because even from what we keep hearing about Grand Theft Auto and the size and scope of it, if I'm sure they didn't start, because I don't think they're split into two teams anymore in that development studio. I think they have everybody working on one project, like, between the multiple Rockstar development studios they have. For the most part, they tend to at least minimum be like 75-25% on projects. So realistically, I would imagine, we're talking including crunch and stuff, and crunch was like 10 months, it seemed, from what I remember, with Grand Theft Auto, or Red Dead Redemption 2. So they're probably not starting until 2018 on pre-production for Grand Theft Auto 6. I would think 2024, the earliest, would probably be when that comes out. So I could see it. I just don't think they're going to double a marketing budget for Borderlands 4, or I don't even know. like the newest BioShock installment, which is being worked on and whatnot, like that doesn't have the same emphasis from a large scale publisher like Take-Two. So I think it's clear as day that it's Grand Theft Auto. I can't imagine why you'd be spending that much money on anything else that demands that much money, or that's worth putting that much money up for to make sure it sells. But who the hell knows? Who the hell knows at this point? Rockstar, like I said, does their own thing. They go to their own beat, and it is what it is type of deal. So, Mike, let's move on to our next news article here. Xbox Series X to launch with, quote, thousands of games and performance upgrades to them. This comes from Ryan McCaffrey over on IGN, as always, link in the description below. Microsoft is doubling down on a known strength by confirming that the Xbox Series X will launch with, quote, thousands of games leveraging its years-long backwards compatibility efforts in comparison to Sony's mixed messaging on PlayStation 5's backwards compatibility capabilities. Quote, with more than 10,000 hours of playtesting already completed, thousands of games are already playable on Xbox Series X today. From the biggest blockbusters to cult classics and fan favorites, Xbox Series X Director of Program Management Jason Ronald wrote in a blog on Xbox Wire. Quote, many of us in Team Xbox play on the Xbox Series X daily as our primary console, and switching between generations is seamless. Must be nice. By the time we launch this holiday, the team will have spent well over 200,000 hours ensuring your game library is ready for you to jump in immediately. Ronald also spoke with IGN, and when asked if, quote, thousands meant that the goal was every single Xbox One game, in addition to the hundreds of Xbox 360 and original Xbox games already compatible with the Xbox One that also plays on Xbox Series X, Ronald said, quote, the goal is definitely the thousands of titles that run on Xbox One today. If the game runs on Xbox One, it is our goal to get that to run on the Series X. There might be some one-off exceptions here or there, he added, noting that, quote, licensing or a technical issue should be the only possible roadblocks. For instance, in former case, a game with licensed music whose contract with the publisher has expired. Even better, Ronald says that Xbox One, Xbox 360, and original Xbox games will run better on Series X than they originally did. Quote, all titles run at the peak performance that they originally designed for, many times even higher performance than the game saw on the original launch platform, resulting in higher and more steady frame rates and rendering at the maximum resolution and visual quality, Ronald said on Xbox Wire. Quote, backwards compatibility titles also see significant reduction of in-game load times from massive leaps in performance from our custom NVMe SSD, which powers the Xbox Velocity architecture. When pressed for specific examples, Ronald said, quote, all of them are seeing a lot of benefits in certain areas. As an example, he noted, titles that use dynamic resolution scaling, now it's a rock-solid 4K or whatever its originally designed resolution was. HDR is among the new technologies being seamlessly retrofitted into older Xbox games. Geometry Wars is one that I really enjoy. To actually see that HDR, he tailed off, also mentioning Boom Boom Rocket, along with two games that have already had their post-generation HDR added, Halo 5 Guardians and Fusion Frenzy. Shout out to Adam. So, as mentioned in the article, really, this comes kind of on the heels of Sony updating their wording in regards to backwards compatibility on the upcoming PS5 by saying they intend to support, I believe it's, quote, majority of 4,000 plus PS4 titles over a period of time. Though, to be quite honest, it's for good reason. They're making sure each title is fully able to take advantage of the technology in the system with the PS5's boosted frequencies that will run PS4 titles at, just like the Xbox Series X, higher frame rates, better resolution, etc., etc. So my question really is, Mike, is Microsoft's commitment to backwards compatibility as big of a staple to potential success as we think it is? Do you think Microsoft has leaned a little bit too much into the past than their future titles? Though we will be seeing more of their first party offerings, in a few weeks, but, where Sony's now, and we're going to kind of touch on this in a little bit again too, but, Sony's showing, hey, this is potentially what a PS5 game could look like running on an Unreal Engine 5. This is what this looks like. This is the future right here, leaning more into maybe a little bit more of the future, which is both good and bad, because somebody who, like you, like Adam, like a ton of people we know, still does hang on to their their 360 discs, their original Xbox discs, and are going to have Xbox One discs that they take forward, or Xbox One games digitally that we're going to take forward to the next generation that we're still going to play. They're not going to go out of, not going to go out of style necessarily. If I want to play Oblivion, I'm going to throw my disc in there and I'm going to play it, and I can do that now on Xbox, and I can, hopefully, from what it sounds like, do that on Xbox Series X, but, do you think they're leaning a little bit too much into that? Like, does it almost disappoint you haven't seen maybe newer gameplay yet, or you haven't, necessarily heard more about the future, and it's stuff that we can, have access to now, really, already? Like, we are able to access backwards compatibility, or are we thinking too much into this?
I guess where I would go with this...
I mean, really, realistically, at the end of the day, it's a good thing no matter what. Trust me, it's not a bad thing. It's not what I'm saying. I'm super stoked for it, but I guess do you think they're playing it up a little bit more than, they should in other areas, I guess?
I think it's something that people will... I think you have to kind of... This is it's a weird question, just because I feel like the game in general all these games coming to the new Xbox basically solidifies the fact that they're supporting fans of Xbox from day one. Even though some of these fans may have strayed or may have gone to different developers or different companies, they are going back and they're saying, like, hey, man, you enjoyed, for me, Xbox or Ninja Gaiden Black. Like, hey, that's going to work on Xbox Series X. Like, you don't have to worry about it, which is great, because, like, then it allows you to kind of declutter your setup, if you will. But when I moved to Virginia and I set up my man cave, like, I'm going to have my original Xbox, my Sega, N64, NES, like, all that shit's going to be set up. Like, I'm going to have a setup that has all of that stuff included. But other people like a minimalist setup. They like to have the least amount of stuff showing as possible, which is cool, and I can understand that. And the Xbox Series X is going to let you do that with these older game support. Now, is it hearkening too much to the past? I think this question needs to be asked with a second question to kind of get your hands dirty with it. I think you need to ask yourself, and I think everyone needs listening, depending on your opinion, or if you don't have one, needs to ask themselves, does the fact that COVID is going to push games back, did it have an impact on this?
That's a good question.
It's late to the game for them to be completely redesigning infrastructure to allow the support for these original Xbox games. But is the whole coronavirus thing going to push games back, which means they're going to have some Xbox Series X games that were available, kind of like the Xbox One, where there wasn't much available. But with the Xbox One, most of the original Xbox 360 and Xbox original games didn't really work. They just didn't work on Xbox One, like, right out of the box. Like, there were needed to be updates and things of that nature. So does this doubling down on supporting previous generations kind of justify the investment that consumers have to make for a Series X? If I'm only going to get 10 games on the release holiday, or 5 games, but I can play my old games, does that justify my purchase? And I think what Xbox and Microsoft is doing is they're kind of attempting to justify your investment to their systems. And with that being said, nobody bitches and whines and moans and complains about Nintendo Switch supporting NES and SNES games. So, I mean, does it suck if there's going to be less original content? Sure. But I feel like the extenuating circumstances surrounding, the lack of original content, if that is the case, them saying, hey, all your old games are going to work, I feel like that's as good as a little standby or like catch all that you can produce as a company, saying, hey, we know that life threw the entire world a curveball this past year, including us. And we are going to miss some deadlines because Halo Infinite, if I don't see whenever we're supposed to see gameplay in July, if I don't see a full build with a bunch of multiplayer maps, or if I don't see a full build with a full campaign and there's not full gameplay and they're not on the stage actually playing the game, that game's not coming out this Christmas. And I will literally, it's getting to the point where I will get I'm so against tattoos. Like, depending on what I see July, I would be willing to get like some type of Halo tattoo if it releases. Like, I'm willing to go that far to say that game's not going to release. But if MCC is going to work, or if older Halo games are going to work and all that stuff, like, okay, like, at least it's not like I'm stuck without games, you know what I mean? Right. And I think that's Microsoft's biggest worry right now, is they don't want consumers, and they don't want their investors, and they don't want the stockholders to feel like this console is going to release and it's going to flop completely. Yeah. That's the way I'm looking at it,
You all heard that, right? He did say Halo tattoo. I said
depending on what I see in July. I didn't say I will. At this point in time, I have to have more information before I'm willing to make that bet, because I am a betting man.
Yeah. I know. You're a degenerate gambler.
I also need I need more information. There's not enough out there.
Oh, wait. I'm getting a spam call right now. Let's listen in on it. Hello? Hello?
Hello, I'm looking for Davis.
This is John. Hello?
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, hold on. I can grab Travis. Hold on. Oh, fuck. She hung up. Anyways, that spammer's been calling me for fucking 3 weeks now. Anyways, though, no, if anything, tattoo-wise of a bet, because you are a degenerate gambler. I mean, in a good way, I'm saying. But you definitely have to get the Halo 2 Jackal Sniper, 100%. There's
no.
Just no, it's not happening.
No,
just instantly no. Anyways, talking about this though, I definitely agree with you. It's a really good, it's an interesting perspective to look at, where who knows if, say, 3 months ago, whatever, before all hell broke loose and the world started ending, do you think we'd see this much emphasis put on backwards compatibility? Or would it be, because I'll be quite honest, I was fucking pissed whenever I bought my Xbox One, and I knew buying it that it didn't have backwards compatibility, but I was fucking pissed whenever I'm buying my Xbox One, and I'm like, well, I got a game I could play pretty much, and that's about it. Looks like I'm going to keep playing my 360 some, because I had a whole full library of games on my 360 that I would have loved to play on my Xbox One day one or whatever, whenever I bought it in, I think it was January 2014. So it's it's totally the best thing to emphasize if you're Xbox, and especially PlayStation, since they didn't, that wasn't included the past generation and a half, pretty much. So to me, they never need to downplay it, but that is a really curious thing to look at of, okay, well, if the world wouldn't have went to hell, do you think we'd be seeing this much emphasis put on? Because that kind of ties back into what we talked about last week of Phil Spencer saying, hey, games coming out within the next, year from now, they're going to be fine. They're all the, major things are done, but games that are still doing mocap, games that are still doing voiceover work, Foley artist, any kind of music, any soundtracks that they're working on, especially if it's orchestral, games like that are in that stage of development still, that are probably at least, an additional year out, they're probably bumped back now. They're probably there's not much work being done on them. So I think it is important to have that, and I think you're going to see a lot more games like Siege, like Fortnite, that have already said, hey, we're going to next gen. We're not giving you, at least not day one for the most part, you're not going to have to go out and get a brand new, copy of the game on launch day. You're going to be able to carry that forward. I think we're going to see more live service games like that, more games that, like a Destiny, like even Fallout 76, things like that, and Division, that are going to keep carrying forward and going to have longer legs than we probably wouldn't imagine, because, like you said, there's probably not going to be a ton of games that are coming out. At least, we're going to have a drought that picks up. And sure, we're going to see more indies that are going to pop up, developers who have always worked from home, that, are a studio of 10 people that are able to put out a project that may click during that time frame. We're still going to have games, but we're going to have a AAA drought, probably, where we're not going to see a ton of games. But I'm still in the camp that I still feel confident that Halo's going to launch this November. I understand, though, why. I understand. I could still see. There's still like that, like 10% of me that's like, why the fuck haven't we seen any gameplay for this? Like, that obviously means like something. Like, and I think on that end, I still think they're a little, which isn't good, but I think 343 is really, really waiting to the last possible moment in terms of wanting to make sure what they show is perfect. But I think they should have gotten out ahead. I think we should have saw gameplay last summer at E3. I thought that was the time that is clear. We really don't need another engine demo. We don't need another, any more in-game engine footage, cinematic. We need to see legitimate gameplay, because if this is going to be a quote-unquote soft reboot of Halo or a new approach to Halo, you're going to need time to sell people on that. Like, it's not going to be if you're wanting to combine these two communities, the old school players, the Bungie fans, and the 343 fans, the newer generation of players, if you're wanting to combine those and you're wanting to bring them together, like, that's not going to be an overnight thing. That's going to take some time. That's going to be something that isn't going to be a blink of an eye. And it still baffles me that we didn't see gameplay on that. And obviously, game development's hard. It's not easy. It's, certain things can only be done at certain times and in a certain time frame. But the game's been in development since at least, 2016, early 2016, I would say. Considering, and they had to build the engine and stuff, the new engine and stuff like that. I get it. But, the game's been in development for the better part of 5 years. So I would hope we would have seen gameplay, since it has been playable for how long now. So I'm with you. I'm a little nervous, but I still feel confident that they're going to put it out, but how good will it be, type of thing. So
right.
I don't know. It makes me very nervous as a fan, a long-term fan like you. It's a little nerve-wracking. I like the proof of concept that they sent out, or that they did show from the past two, that it seemed like a really good mesh of, the atmospherics and the art style of the original, while also seeming like it's going to combine a lot of the versatility and the more expansive environments that we saw kind of get an evolution from the original games to the newer games. Like, I'm excited to see all of that, and I think they're going to find something that is an overall good game. But there's so many, it's just one of those franchises that is a piece of gaming history that it's going to take more than just, hey, here's the new game, type of thing. It's going to take a while. It's going to take some, convincing on both sides. So, Mike, let's head into our last news article here for the week, and it's just more of a clarification, I'd say, because we've seen some things pop up about it over the past week or so since its release, but In Exile Entertainment is for sure using Unreal Engine 5 for its next project, and this comes from Kaylee Partleton. Sorry if I kind of butchered that a little bit. Via PC Games Insider. As always, link in the description. Go over and give Kaylee a click. Microsoft-owned studio In Exile Entertainment will use the newly announced Unreal Engine 5 for its next project. Confirmed via Twitter, the Wasteland 3 developer insists its current focus is on releasing its current project. However, It'll utilize Epic Games' new tech for its next game. Quote, "Thank you. We're excited to share more, although it'll be a while. Focusing on finishing Wasteland 3 and getting it into people's hands on August 28th. We will indeed be using Unreal Engine 5 for our next project," said in Exile Entertainment. Epic teamed up with Sony to give a first look at Unreal Engine 5 earlier this month. However, Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney has confirmed that Xbox Series X will be compatible. It would appear that Microsoft's first-party studio will be among the first to create a game with the tech. Quote, "The Unreal Engine 5 demo on PlayStation 5 was the culmination of years of discussions between Sony and Epic on future graphics and storage architecture," said Sweeney. The Nanite and Lumen tech powering it will be fully supported on both PS5 and Xbox Series X and will be awesome on both. Xbox boss Phil Spencer also took to Twitter earlier this month to express his excitement at what Xbox Series X will achieve through the use of Unreal Engine 5. Quote, "Incredible work by the team at Epic at Unreal Engine. Many of our Xbox game studios are using Unreal, like the team at Ninja Theory, creating Hellblade 2, and are excited to bring these Unreal Engine 5 innovations to life on Xbox Series X," said Spencer. So, we've covered Unreal Engine 5, the reveal of it, a couple weeks ago, but Mike, do you think the partnership with Sony for the reveal has sent mixed messagings about the engine, more so on the consumer end, and even more so than that, general consumer, not necessarily, people like us who cover the industry or are at the enthusiast level, like a lot of people who pay attention to this, watching this on release, but, do you think that's a little confusing to people who may not be as in tune to the industry or even game development in general, where they see something like this and think it's solely only available on Sony hardware, considering the partnership, saying this is what a PlayStation 5 game could look like in their messaging? And even though they did come out after and say, yeah, it's available and everything, do you think that, seeing this and hearing this right off the bat, obviously some people didn't get the memo. Do you think that, that mixed messaging is real, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to assume this. Reason being is you would basically have to say to yourself, like, what does this say to the general public? Like, this, I mean, basically, like, this happening, them releasing it on Sony PlayStation. What does this tell someone? Like, what does this say to someone? What does someone think of this? And at that point in time, you have to really kind of put yourself in someone who might be unknowledgeable on the facts shoes and say, wow, like, they partnered up with Sony and it's like, this is what games could look like on Sony PlayStation 5. And the uninformed consumer would have to think like, wow, like, Unreal Engine's only going to be on Sony PlayStation. Like, it's not going to be on everything else. But the general gamer that knows about the Unreal Engine would say, obviously, they partnered with PlayStation because they had a dev kit handy and they could just do it, or whatever the case may be. The partnership with Sony does confuse things a little, and it's not like a huge deal to the point where like everyone's like, wow, it's only going to be on Sony. But I do think like the question you raised is a good one, and I do think you kind of have to consider the fact that it's definitely strange that they partnered with Sony for the, unveiling of this. And I think it does. I think it would confuse people just by and large, because you're going to be like, huh, that's weird. Especially newer, whether it be newer customers to the gaming landscape or people who just don't, aren't up on it as much. I think you're basically, to kind of dumb it down, or at least just, quit filling my answer. I mean, yeah, it's confusing. Consumers are going to be confused by this, and it is strange. I don't know why it was done. I don't have any business reasoning, although I do look at a lot of corporations. I look at a lot of businesses and wonder, why is this happening? Why are they doing that? This doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely weird.
Yeah, it definitely, and we see this a lot with like, especially this generation, you've seen Sony partner with a lot of publishers, like Call of Duty having, X amount of maps included on launch compared to, hey, Xbox is going to get these 3 maps later down the road. Red Dead Redemption 2, official partnership with Sony. Hey, they're going to get exclusive content on Red Dead Online for the first month or whatever. Then it's coming to Xbox and PC. X, Y, and Z. Destiny was another one that always did a lot of work with Sony. So it's not foreign by any means, and I really don't think there's going to be too much of a difference outside of, obviously, hands down, granted, the Xbox Series X's SSD is going to be no joke to mess with, but the PS5's SSD, from what it sounds like, is going to be asininely insane, the technology that they're implementing with that. And that's going to be a big part of their push coming with this. But you do have to think, we're in this bubble of, hey, we cover the industry. We've been covering Xbox for quite a while now, and me have been writing for sites and, doing a lot of different content creation. We're so in tune with everything that's going on from an industry standpoint and news that's breaking and whatnot, because it's kind of our job in a sense. So we don't think that, we are the loud minority in this case, that we're seeing this stuff, and it's because we're so close to it that at times we think, oh, well, yeah, how couldn't you not know? They said X, Y, and Z. Well, Joe Schmo, who goes out and, maybe only buys a game or two a year, or friends, like I'll get texts from friends who don't game a lot. Like our buddy Tyler texts me, hey, is Jedi Fallen Order good at picking up like a handful of weeks ago? And I'm like, hell yes, absolute great game. It was my game of the year last year, yada, yada. Who don't buy games that often, but are looking to, they're not in tune with all of this stuff that's going on. That it's like, hey, I didn't realize this game was out, or it was a big deal. Should I buy it? Yada yada. Like, it's hard to sometimes realize that because of the people you talk to in this industry and whatnot, like everybody's so passionate about games and pushing the games medium and covering games and yada yada, and that you don't realize the vast majority of consumers aren't necessarily balls deep into this stuff. They just hear about a new game coming out. I think the best example of this is when the day before the Unreal Engine 5 demo came out, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 Remaster was announced. And I know I feel pretty safe saying this on your behalf as well, Mike. Our timelines on Facebook were flooded with so many people who don't traditionally probably play games being like, oh my god, they're remaking this. That's crazy. Like, I haven't played games in so long, but I want to play this. Like, I've saw so many people on Facebook, Twitter, like, who don't traditionally play games being like, that looks so dope. I want to go out and buy an Xbox or a PlayStation or whatever to play that because I loved this as a kid. You see a lot of those, you see people, there's so many people out there who, only it's a slice of life for them. It's not, like us, we cover it. We try to talk about it. We look at it as, a form of a job almost. So, because we're passionate about it. So it's sometimes you have to think about that stuff that I would have thought it was pretty clear that all this stuff comes out, but then you see some people being like, hey, are you guys using this? I thought this was only on PlayStation. That, it just sometimes, people don't hear everything, especially people who aren't necessarily as in tune to the industry, who just play games casually or, look at it as just another medium that they spend equal amount of time with other things. So it's kind of interesting that I don't think the messaging was super mixed, but it's an interesting perspective that I think a lot of people looked over. That, oh yeah, well, obviously Unreal Engine 5, that's a game engine that's used, Unreal's used across every platform. It's on Switch, it's on Xbox One, PS4, PC, anything. It's used on mobile, like stuff like that. So, it's I guess being more cognitive of, hey, there's people who don't look at this stuff a lot of times and are just going off of random things that'll pop up. They may not know that. So, Mike, to kind of round off the show, I wanted to do something a little bit different this week, and I wanted to bring back an older segment, but almost do a little bit of a soft reboot of it, kind of like we were talking about with Halo. Doing a little soft reboot, a party chat. If you're a long-term listener of the show, one, thank you, as always, for listening to our dumbasses talk about video games and stuff for how long, because we love you and we love doing that. So, but if you're a long-term fan, you might remember our Party Chat specials, where we take questions from you, the listener, read them on here, answer them, yada yada, talk all about them, all that good jazz. That I want to kind of bring that back, but I wanted to bring it back in a little bit newer segment to try to get more people involved in dialogue around games. So, you know, we're going to twist it up a little bit. So each week we're going to propose one question at the end of the show that, or, you know, topical discussion point that we want to discuss. It could be as simple as, what's your favorite story beat of a game? Or what have you been playing during quarantine? Or it could be more in depth as to why the stigma around gaming still exists. And after answering it ourselves, we'll kick it over to you, the listener, to tweet your responses to the question over on our Twitter at GPGC Podcast, and we'll read some of those responses the following week. So we kind of have an ongoing discussion for the week for the show that comes out. So, Mike, you ready for this week's question?
I am ready.
All right, so this week's question that comes up is the upcoming console generation the last we see of the generational model? Is this the last time we see a true console generation, a PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2, an Xbox to an Xbox 360 to an Xbox One? Do we see this being the last iterative model? And, you know, obviously after that, move to a more PC model that people have been saying for how long? That, you know, game consoles are going to go that way, especially now with how popular PC gaming has become again. You know, do you think we see consoles take that route and make models that can be upgraded, where you go and just upgrade, you know, the processor, where in a much more plug and play manner, I'm sure, for the casual consumer? But do you think this is the upcoming console generation, the last we truly see of the generational model?
I reckon anything's possible. I do think it really depends on manufacturing costs of a console that would be of that nature. I think one of the reasons why console gaming is still popular is just basic dollar signs, just like what's most cost effective. Like, you know, is being a console gamer much cheaper than being a PC gamer? And by and large, usually, yes, it's cheaper to play on console than it is on PC. So I think until PCs are cheap or whatever, which will probably never happen, I do think that we'll see consoles continue to be made. Now, again, this is depending on just cost of the console, cost of the PC, whatever. If consoles start to get to the point where they're going to be as expensive as PCs, which this generation we might see it, where they're going to be $500-$600, whatever. You're talking about, I spent $1,200 on a new PC. Granted, I didn't go top of the line, but I mean, mine's upper middle of the road computer, pretty solid, right? I mean, if you're already spending $600, I know to me, when you go from $600, I get the use out of it. So if I'm at $600, I don't see why I wouldn't go up. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't I go up to $1,200? So for me, it kind of makes sense just to have a PC. With the Game Pass Ultimate, it's interesting because you can play PC game or Xbox games on your PC. I think it's definitely something that's worth talking about and worth considering. Personally, for me, without being able to like see into the future, just gut reaction, I would say there's probably going to be another generation of consoles in a few years. But that's taking into consideration there's no big technology breakthrough. Basically, when I try to make predictions in this case, I try to go off of the information that I have available to me at this point in time, and also, you know, where technology is right now. And for me, seeing where technology is, I just don't see there being a big enough technology leap where it's going to be cheap enough for them to manufacture consoles that consumers can customize. I just don't see that yet. So with everything that's at my disposal as of right now, and where technology is going with the NVMe, solid state drives and everything, I see one more generation of consoles being viable. Because we're seeing solid state drives be pushed to the brink, and with storage being so quick and so fast, you're going to be able to see lower load times. You're going to be able to see all kinds of cool things happen with this console. I think we're going to see one more generation, and then I would be willing to say it's very likely that would be the end of consoles as we know it, and maybe forever. So that's my stance on it. I'm curious to hear, what you have to say.
It's because I'm like you. If I'm spending $600, I just upgrade my PC. It's at, I got a really good processor, a pretty up there graphics card still, and a 1070. Like, both of our PCs kick some ass right now. They're not the best in the world, but they're much more powerful than our consoles for sure. I think I'm with you. One, the convenience and the ability to manufacture being so much easier for a console in terms of getting it to the consumer and whatnot. The knowledge that it takes to build a PC is not that drastically. It's nothing drastic. You can easily learn how to build a PC. I explain usually when I explain to my one coworker that I helped build his PC for, I believe it was at the beginning of this year. Whenever we built it, I told him, I'm like, I like to look at it as like adult Legos. Like, you go off of they give you the sheet. It's easy once you understand how to do it. It's kind of plug and play because a lot of it does look the same. Like, a lot of your motherboards are going to be the same depending on size and whatnot, yada yada. So it's not drastically hard, but the pick up and play ability with consoles is always going to trump PC gaming in terms of for the general consumer. No matter how much ass PCs can kick in terms of fidelity, performance, everything like that, and even cost for buying games is traditionally much cheaper on PC through Steam sales and whatnot. That having the ability to go and sit in front of a console and easily plug and play is always going to trump that. That being said, I think now with more and more and more people getting into gaming and more people who were traditionally console players transitioning to PC gaming on top of that, more people are becoming aware of that of building PCs and the technology behind everything that's going in there. And tech's just becoming much more available to people, and more people are understanding tech easier. I mean, it's becoming much more, people are becoming much more evident to what processing power is, what graphic, a GPU is, and, what RAM does, things like that. I still think there might be one more after this. I wouldn't be completely shocked if, especially with how Xbox is kind of handling this console generation by coming out, by saying, hey, it's just Xbox. We're coming out just as Xbox. We're going to have different series of the Xbox, but you're going to have the Series X, what it sounds like, the Series S on top of that, the more entry-level model. And, we're already starting to see shades of that. I always think there will be a PlayStation. There's always going to be an Xbox or some kind of console. There's always going to be consoles. But where that goes from a PC standpoint, where you buy a console and after 5 years you can go and take it to GameStop. You could take it to, I don't know if GameStop's going to be here, let's be honest, but you get what I mean, like a Best Buy or something like that offers the service, kind of like Apple does, where you could take your phone in and get Apple Care done. You can go right in and you could buy it, and they'll sell the new ones. They'll say, like, hey, this has the updated, like the new iPhone has. This has the updated processor already in it, or yada yada. But you can take your Xbox or PlayStation into a Best Buy or a Microsoft store if you have an Xbox, or you get what I'm saying, that they could do it on the spot. They can upgrade it for you, yada yada, or swap it in or something like that. I just don't. I think we'll have another console generation after this, but I think that's really where you'll see the lines become blurred and it'll be more of a mesh. But we're already seeing hints of it right now with the branding that Microsoft's putting out there, saying it's just Xbox. We just go buy Xbox. Now, granted, that could also just be because Sony's always done PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 now, that they have that numerical system down, that why would they really shift from that, where Microsoft's never had that. It's always been something uniquely different each time, but I definitely lean more into, the former than the latter, that I think it's starting to set up with how blurred the lines are already of, Xbox and PC gaming, that I wouldn't be shocked if, especially with how much Xbox has been taking chances to win public races back, if they say they don't sell as many consoles this generation coming up, which is still very much true no matter how much great work they're putting in, they could very well not sell as many consoles as they expect to and say, fuck, we got one more crack at this potentially, and they go back to the drawing board and they try something different. That may be the first stone that's cast in all this. So I don't know. I'm really interested to see how this console generation goes in terms of just what the trends are, what consumers ask compared to, what we're asking for right now and what we're asking for in 3 years, and then in 5 years, and then whenever 7 years rolls around, and that's usually what we're now seeing the average console life to be. What are we looking for? Are we gonna see mid-gen refreshes again with the Series X, or the Xbox One X and PlayStation 4 Pro? Who the hell knows? So I'm really excited for it, but just because I love tech, I'm like you, I just love technology. I think it's really cool. Learning about it, so. It's just going to be really interesting because it's a really transformative time in the industry that we're seeing a lot of different things change that were always kind of expected with our industry, but I don't know, man. It'll be interesting to say the least. But Mike, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode. Like we were saying, please write into the show. It's your turn now to talk about that question. We want to hear, do you think the upcoming console generation is going to be the last we see in the generational model? Do we think we'll see a PlayStation 6 or an Xbox Series Q, whatever the fuck they want to call it? Or do you think we're going to have just Xboxes and PlayStations? Do you think we're going to see iterative models done to them, upgrades done to them? So it's your turn to answer that. Go over on Twitter at GPGC Podcast, respond to our tweet regarding it, and we'll talk about it then. Read some of your responses next week on the show. And that being said, Mike, I think that's going to be the end of the episode. Where can people find you to talk about all we talked about today? Take-Two Interactive, all those fucking games that they're going to be making, Xbox and where they're going with backwards compatibility and all that jazz. Where can they find you to talk about video games on the internet?
You can find me at TOYSXLDIER on Twitter. That's Toy Soldier with an X as the second O. And you can find me on Twitch at MP_Toy Soldier.
Nice. And as always, I am your host, Travis White, aka Travlis, on most internet platforms, including Twitter at Travlis_. That's TRAVLESS_. You can also find me streaming time to time on twitch.tv/Travlis_, same as Twitter. And you want to play some video games with me over on Xbox Live, PSN, Switch, all that jazz. You can find me on Steam too, and PC gaming, all that jazz. You can find me just regular Travlis. Everything's that now. It's just TRAVLESS. And with that being said, that's going to be it for your newest episode of the Game Pass Gamecast, your weekly go-to podcast for all things Xbox and Xbox Game Pass and PC gaming, including news, rumors, and conversations around them damn good video games. You can catch new episodes of the show when they drop each and every Friday morning on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, and all other major podcast services. So be sure to subscribe to us wherever you get a podcast at. Rate us as well, and review us, and follow us on Twitter at GPGC Podcast. Stay up to date with everything regarding the show, video games alike, and our dope giveaways. And with that being said, thank you so much for listening, sharing, and being a part of our growing community. And game on, wash your hands, listen to the doctors, all that jazz, and we will see you next week.